All right, let's jump right into today's explainer. We've got a super fun and honestly highly requested goal today. We're going to take a short French story called La Nouvelle Élève, the new student, and completely break it down. We'll translate it into English step by step. So, whether you're actively brushing up on your French or you just love a good story about overcoming those universal first day of school jitters, this explainer is going to pull back the curtain on the language while keeping us hooked on the narrative.
Here's our quick roadmap for the journey. First, we'll meet Leia, then walk through her morning routine, experience arriving at school, making a new friend, her afternoon success, and finally, a happy ending.
Okay, part 1. Meet Leia. Let's look at some introductions in French.
The story kicks off with a super classic, friendly introduction. She says, "Bonjour, je m'appelle Leia." Now, you probably know bonjour is your standard hello or good morning, and je m'appelle, well, literally that means I call myself, which is the French way of saying my name is. So, hello, my name is Leia. It's simple, direct, and puts us right in her shoes.
Next, she tells us her age. J'ai 11 ans, 11 years old. And this is a really cool quirk of the language. Notice the structural difference here? In English, we say we are a certain age, right? But in French, you have a certain number of years. J'ai means I have, 11 is 11, and 11 is years. It's one of those fundamental language shifts that's just always fascinating to see in action.
Then, Leia really sets the stage. She says, "Aujourd'hui est un jour important." Today is an important day. And why is it so important? Well, the very next line tells us, "Je commence dans une nouvelle école." I am starting at a new school. Boom, we immediately get the stakes. I mean, she's 11, and she's facing that incredibly daunting task of walking into a completely new environment.
Moving right along to section 2, the morning routine. Time to get ready.
Let's break down her morning chronologically. The text says, "Le matin, je me réveille tôt." In the morning, I wake up early. Next, she gets dressed. Je mets une chemise, which will translate fully in a sec. Then, ma mère prépare. Her mom prepares breakfast. And finally, puis je prends mon sac et je vais à l'école. Then I take my bag and go to school. This timeline is actually a brilliant way to see how French verbs in the present tense can really drive a narrative forward.
Okay, let's zoom in on her outfit, because it gives us some fantastic everyday vocabulary. She says, "Je mets une chemise bleue, un pantalon noir et mes chaussures." Now, pay attention to the word order here. In English, we say blue shirt, but in French, it's chemise bleue. The noun comes first and then the color adjective. Same deal with pantalon noir, black pants. And she finishes the look with mes chaussures, my shoes. Visualizing exactly what she puts on really grounds this whole story in reality.
And before she heads out the door, she eats. Ma mère prépare le petit déjeuner. Je mange du pain et je bois du lait. Her mom prepares breakfast, le petit déjeuner, and what does she have? She eats some bread, du pain, and drinks some milk, du lait. It's a very traditional, simple French start to the day. Which brings us to section 3, arriving at school, the crowds and the nerves.
The reality of this new school hits her the literal second she walks through the gates. À l'école, je vois beaucoup de personnes. At school, I see a lot of people. Beaucoup is an absolutely essential phrase meaning a lot of, and it perfectly captures that overwhelming feeling of walking into a packed courtyard on day 1.
So who exactly makes up this crowd? The text breaks it down. Il y a des garçons, des filles, et des professeurs. There are boys, girls, and teachers. Take note of il y a. That is a vital French expression that just means there is or there are. She's taking stock of everyone around her and realizing she doesn't know a single soul.
Which leads to a really crucial point about her emotional state, summed up perfectly right here. Je suis un peu stressé. I am a little stressed or anxious. Stressé is a cognate, meaning it sounds super similar to the English word, making it incredibly easy to remember. And honestly, it's so relatable. I mean, who hasn't felt un peu stressé staring at a sea of unfamiliar faces?
All right, section 4, making a new friend. Enter Emma.
Here's where things shift. Une fille vient vers moi. Elle dit, "Bonjour, je m'appelle Emma." A girl comes toward me. She says, "Hello, my name is Emma." And look at how Leia replies. Je réponds, "Bonjour, moi c'est Léa." I answer, "Hello, me, it's Leia." This is a wonderfully natural exchange. Emma uses the formal je m'appelle, but Leia uses a slightly more casual, very common spoken French phrase moi c'est, which roughly translates to I'm Leia.
And instantly, Lea's anxiety just begins to melt away. Emma est très gentille. Emma is very kind. That word gentille is huge here. It's exactly the kind of reassurance Lea needed in that moment of pure stress.
And Emma doesn't just say hi. She takes Lea right under her wing and gives her the grand tour. Elle me montre la bibliothèque, la salle de classe et le terrain de sport. She shows me the library, the classrooms, and the sports field. This physical movement around the school really marks Lea transitioning from an outsider to an insider. Then the text adds, Nous parlons pendant la pause. Nous jouons ensemble. We talk during the break. We play together. The bond is officially sealed. Moving into the afternoon. Section 5. Afternoon success. In the classroom.
L'après-midi, nous étudions les mathématiques et la science. In the afternoon, we study mathematics and science. Now, these subjects are textbook examples of cognates. Mathématiques is mathematics, and science is, well, spelled exactly the same as science in English. It is always a massive relief for language learners when the vocabulary lines up that neatly.
And this part brilliantly illustrates her ultimate triumph for the day. Let's look at the sequence. First, le professeur pose une question. The teacher asks a question. Second, je connais la réponse. I know the answer. Third, je lève la main. I raise my hand. And fourth, le professeur sourit. The teacher smiles. You know, this isn't just about practicing French vocabulary. It's this beautifully paced little narrative of a student finding her voice and realizing, hey, I belong here.
Finally, Section 6. A happy ending. Reflections on the day. The text summarizes her mood just perfectly. À la fin de la journée, je suis heureuse. J'ai une nouvelle amie. At the end of the day, I am happy. I have a new friend. Notice the massive shift from being stressed in the morning to heureuse, happy, in the afternoon. And the reason for this newfound happiness? It's completely clear. She has une nouvelle amie.
The story wraps up with her final internal thought. Je pense cette école est formidable. I think this school is wonderful. Now watch out, because the word formidable in French is a major false friend for us English speakers. In English, formidable usually means intimidating or daunting, but in French, it means great, wonderful, or fantastic. It's basically the ultimate stamp of approval from our protagonist.
And that brings us to the end of Leah's story. By breaking down this French text, we didn't just learn some vocab like chemise or professeur, we actually unpacked a deeply human experience. So I'll leave you with this to ponder. Do you remember the nerves of your own first day of school, or maybe a new job, and how a single kind word from someone like Emma changed absolutely everything? Thank you so much for joining me on this linguistic journey. I hope this explainer made French feel a little more accessible and a little more human. Until next time, keep learning.